Ah, child, diaries are strange little things. They do not shout, they do not argue. They only wait for trembling hands to open them, for eyes to dare read what was never meant to be spoken aloud. In my drawer lies such a diary, its pages yellowed, its ink faded, yet its secrets, oh, they still burn. Shall I tell you the story I never dared to share? The story even the walls of this house have kept in silence? Every home has a place where secrets sleep, child. Some tuck them beneath loose floorboards, others in boxes hidden in the attic. Mine rested in a drawer, an ordinary drawer, or so it seemed. Yet behind its lock, behind its quiet wood, lived a part of me no one ever saw. I was younger then. Though sorrow had already placed its fingerprints on my face, the world outside expected me to smile, to serve, to keep quiet. But the world inside me, it screamed. And so I bought a small diary, bound in brown leather, its cover already worn, as if it too carried burdens. Each night when the lamps were dim and the house slept, I slid it from its hiding place. The key to the drawer hung on a ribbon around my neck, cold against my chest, reminding me of the danger it carried. You see, the diary was not just paper and ink. It was freedom, and freedom in those days was a dangerous thing. With trembling hands, I wrote what I could never say aloud. My fears, my bruised hopes, the quiet cruelties I endured, and the dreams I dared not speak. The drawer became my confessional, the diary my only witness, and though no one knew it was there, the weight of it followed me like a shadow. Strange, isn't it, child? How a little book can feel heavier than a stone. Each time I pulled that diary from the drawer, my hands trembled. Not from weakness, but from the knowledge that one pair of wrong eyes upon those pages could change everything. Writing became both my salvation and my curse. On nights when silence pressed too hard against the walls, I would whisper to the diary, my pen scratching like a nervous heartbeat across the page. I poured into it the words I could never release into the air, words about fear, about loneliness, about dreams that seemed forbidden in a world where women were told to stay small. Yet each sentence carried a risk. If anyone had discovered what I had written, the truth could have become a weapon against me. Still, I wrote, because to keep those thoughts inside was to drown quietly, and I was not ready to let myself sink. So the diary remained locked away, hidden beneath folded linens and old scarves, safe in that drawer only I dared to open. By day I wore my silence like a mask. By night I bled my truths in ink, line by line, until the pages themselves seemed to pulse with secrets too heavy for one heart alone. Paper, child, is patient. It does not interrupt, it does not judge, it only listens. And so, when the world turned its back on me, I turned to the pages of that little book, night after night, filling it with truths I could not speak aloud. I remember the glow of a single candle, flickering against the dark walls, casting shadows that seemed to lean closer, as if listening. My hand shook as I wrote, the ink blotting and smearing where my tears fell. The diary became both my confessional and my companion. I wrote of the silence that weighed heavier than any chain, of the bruises no one asked about, of the laughter I forced through trembling lips so the neighbors wouldn't suspect. But between the sorrow, I also wrote of dreams, small sparks of hope I dared not breathe into the air. The dream of safety, the dream of being heard, the dream of a life where fear did not sleep in the same room. Each page was a battlefield, my heart against the world outside those walls. And though I often closed the diary with shaking hands, the act of writing gave me strength, like drawing breath after being held underwater. Tears are strange things, child. They blur the words, yet somehow make them truer. Each stain on those pages was proof I was still alive, still fighting, even if only with ink and trembling hands. Night after night, I filled the diary with pieces of myself I dared not show the world. Some nights, the words spilled like a river, rushing, unstoppable. Other nights, I sat frozen, staring at the blank page, my heart too heavy to lift the pen. Still, I always returned, because those pages had become my only safe place. And slowly, very slowly, the act of writing changed me. What began as desperate confession grew into something else, a quiet courage. I began to notice the difference between the woman I was by day, silent, obedient, small, and the woman who wrote by candlelight, whose voice filled line after line with truth. The diary became a mirror, showing me a self I had forgotten I carried inside. But with each word, the risk grew sharper. If anyone found it, my truth would no longer belong to me. It would be turned against me, twisted, punished. Still, I chose to write, for to stay silent was to let fear own me completely. And so I kept on, page after page, bleeding my soul into that hidden book, never knowing that one day it would almost be found. Secrets, child, are like smoke. They always threaten to slip through the cracks. I thought my diary was safe, locked away beneath scarves and linens, hidden from every curious eye. But one day, the shadows came far too close. It was a morning like any other, yet I felt unease before a word was spoken. I heard the sound of drawers opening, things being shifted, and my heart nearly stopped. I was in the hallway when I realized he was searching. Whether for a handkerchief or for proof of something unspoken, I'll never know. But his heavy hands drew closer and closer to the drawer that held my soul. I remember the way the walls seemed to tilt, the way my breath grew shallow. In that moment, it was not just a diary, it was everything I had hidden, every fear, every bruise pressed into words. If his hand reached just a little deeper, he would have found it. And what then? Punishment? Rage? Perhaps worse. I stood frozen, unable to move, listening to the scrape of wood, the shuffle of scarves being lifted. My chest pounded as though it might give me away. And then, silence. The drawer slid shut. His footsteps retreated. He hadn't seen it. Not that day. But the closeness of it left me trembling, knowing the danger had teeth, and it had nearly bitten. After that day, child, the drawer no longer felt like safety. It felt like a ticking clock. Every creak of the floorboards, every sudden silence in the house, I feared it meant my secrets were about to be uncovered. I began to move the diary from place to place, never letting it sleep too long in one hiding spot. Sometimes beneath the flour tin in the kitchen, sometimes inside the hem of an old dress. Once even slipped beneath the mattress where I lay trembling through the night. But no matter where I placed it, I carried the same dread. What if someone found it while I was away? The diary had once been my comfort, the one place I could pour my soul freely. Now it was also my curse, a fragile mirror I lived in terror of shattering. Each time I held it in my hands, I felt both power and peril, the power of my own truth, the peril of its discovery. Yet still I could not stop writing. My need to be heard, even if only by paper, was greater than my fear. And perhaps in some secret corner of my heart, I longed for the day when those words would no longer need to hide, when the story I had buried in ink would finally see the light of day. But that day had not yet come, not until I was ready to tell the story no one knew. Some truths, child, sit so heavy on the soul that we bury them not in earth, but in silence. My diary became their grave, a place where I laid to rest all the words I could never speak. Yet graves do not keep secrets forever. Sooner or later the earth shifts, and what was hidden rises again. I remember the first time I dared to write it, plainly the thing I never whispered, not even to the walls. My hand shook so fiercely that the ink trailed off in uneven lines, but I forced myself to write, to admit, to give shape to what had happened. It was not just fear I carried, it was betrayal, the kind that cuts deeper than any wound, because it comes from the hands meant to protect you. I wrote of the nights that still haunted me, of voices raised like thunder, of shadows that pressed too close. I wrote of the loneliness of being unheard, unseen, trapped in silence, while the world went on smiling at us as though everything was fine. Each word bled onto the page like a wound reopening. Yet, in that pain, I felt a strange release like air rushing into lungs starved too long. For the first time, the truth had a place to live outside of me. Do you know, child, when you finally speak the truth, even if only to paper, the silence inside you begins to crack? It is like breaking a spell, like opening a window in a room, long shut. After I wrote those words, the ones I never dared to say aloud, I closed the diary with trembling hands. I pressed it to my chest and felt my heartbeat against the leather cover, as if the book itself had become part of me. It no longer felt like just a secret. It felt like survival. From that night on, I carried myself a little differently. The world outside did not change its cruelties, its betrayals. Its shadows remained. But inside me, something shifted. I was no longer entirely voiceless. I had given form to my pain, and in doing so, I had taken the first step toward reclaiming my life. Years passed before I ever dared tell another soul. But when I finally did, when the truth left my lips and not just my pen, I was ready. The diary had prepared me. It had been my witness, my confessor, my proof that I had endured and survived. And now, child, as I sit here with you, my voice frail yet steady, I realize the story I never told anyone was never truly silent. It lived in ink, in paper, in hidden drawers and secret corners. And today, it finally lives in you. Memories, child, are not always gentle. Some are jagged stones we carry in our pockets, their weight reminding us of what we've survived. Others are like fragile lanterns, faintly glowing, guiding us through the darkness. This diary of mine, it was both. It held my sorrow, my fear, my truth, and now it holds my release. As I close these pages in my mind, I feel the years between then and now collapse like the turning of a fragile leaf. I am no longer the trembling girl hiding her words in candlelight. I am the grandmother who dares to share them. My pain, once locked away, has become my strength. My silence, once my prison, has become my story. So remember this, child. Truth may hide for a season, but it will always find a voice. And when it does, it may just set you free. If you wish to hear more of Granny's memories, subscribe and join me again, for there are still so many stories the world has forgotten, and I am here to tell them.